I, 34 years old, recently bought a one-story house entirely with the money I saved before I even met my wife. To celebrate, my parents threw a housewarming party, and during the event, my mother asked for a copy of the key in case of emergencies. I agreed because my mother is trustworthy and has always respected our privacy. However, my wife was very upset when she found out. She felt that I disrespected her opinion and believed that my mother had no right to keep a key since she didn't contribute any money toward the purchase of the house. Honestly, I felt her reaction was a bit much, especially given the context and how I came to own the house. Buying this house was a result of years of hard work and saving since my early working years, when I lived in rented places, kept my expenses to a minimum, and made sacrifices. Back then, I was single, and owning a home was a personal goal, a milestone of independence that I set for myself. When I met my wife, we fell in love quickly and got married not long after. By that time, I had already saved up a significant amount and continued to pursue the dream of buying a home. She never objected to that plan. And during our time together, we managed our finances in a way I felt was fair. She handled our daily living expenses and rent, while I saved most of my income to reach the goal of owning a home. We both understood our roles, and I thought she was okay with that arrangement. What I want to emphasize is that this house is entirely in my name, not because I wanted to own everything or control things, but because this was a goal I had long before she entered my life. I recognize that she contributed indirectly. But I don't believe that means every decision regarding the house needs her approval or consent. I'm not trying to deny my wife's role or contributions, but I also didn't think giving my mother a spare key was such a big deal. My mom has never been one to invade anyone's privacy, and she only asked for the key in case of emergencies. That made perfect sense to me and came from a place of trust and family security. After moving into the new home, I was excited. This house wasn't just a product of years of effort. It marked the beginning of a new chapter for us as a couple. I think anyone in my shoes would feel proud, especially with both sides of the family coming together to celebrate. During the housewarming party, my mom, being the cautious, thoughtful person she's always been, gently asked if she could hold on to a copy of the house key just in case of an emergency. It wasn't a surprising request. She has always been quietly supportive, never interfering but ready to step in if needed. So I nodded and handed her a spare key without thinking too much. I really didn't see it as a problem. To me, my mom having a key was just a safety precaution. She had never entered our home uninvited before, and I trusted she never would. She is someone who deeply respects personal boundaries, and even my wife had acknowledged that in the past. There was no precedent to make me worry that she'd overstep or do something inappropriate. But I didn't expect that my wife would feel so hurt by it. She didn't say anything during the party, but when we were alone afterward, she started questioning me. Her face was serious and disappointed. She said I had made a decision without consulting her, that she felt uncomfortable knowing someone else, even my mother, had access to our home. In her view, someone who doesn't live in the house shouldn't have the right to enter at any time, no matter the reason. I was surprised by her reaction. In my mind, this was a small matter, something simple within the family, and completely harmless. But to her, it was about privacy and shared boundaries. She even pointed out that since my mom didn't contribute financially, she had no reason to hold a key, a point that stung a little. Even if my mom didn't put money in, she's still my mother, and giving her the key wasn't about sharing ownership. It was about trust and peace of mind. From there, the conversation turned into an argument. I realized that for my wife, the issue wasn't just about the key. It was about me making a decision without including her, even though we were now living under the same roof. At the time, I didn't feel I was wrong. After all, the house was my own property, and I believed I had full rights to make such decisions. That fundamental difference in perspective became the root of our conflict. That conversation, which started over a single key, became more intense than I had expected. After she voiced her frustration, I still thought it was a minor issue, something I could explain and resolve. But things didn't end there. My wife wasn't just upset about the key. She began questioning how I viewed her role in our marriage and within the home we lived in. She said I didn't respect the boundaries of our relationship and acted as if I were the sole decision maker simply because my name was on the deed. At first, I thought that accusation was a bit harsh. I hadn't meant to turn giving my mom a key into some power move. Then she brought up something I hadn't thought of, that she had indirectly contributed to this house. For a long time, while I saved nearly all my income, she was the one paying for our daily expenses, rent, utilities, groceries. Without her silent support, could I really have saved enough as I did? She said that kind of contribution shouldn't be dismissed just because it wasn't a direct payment into a savings account. I was quiet for a moment. Honestly, I had never denied her importance in our life together. But from my perspective, this house was a dream I had before she came into the picture. I didn't think I was wrong to give my mom a key. It seemed like a normal thing in many families. She, on the other hand, felt I was ignoring her, acting like my house, my rules. The more she talked, the more I could feel her pain. Not because of my mother, whom she got along with, but because she felt excluded from decisions about our home. She said she didn't mind family involvement, but at the very least, she wanted to be asked to be included in the conversation. For her, marriage is about sharing, not just responsibilities, but decision-making too. Giving my mom a key without asking her was a slap in the face to that belief. I started to see her perspective more clearly, but it was still hard for me to admit I was wrong. I stood by the idea that I made a reasonable decision and that my mother didn't do anything inappropriate. But I also realized that what hurt my wife most wasn't the act itself. After that talk, but the feeling of being overlooked in our own home noticeably. We both tried to keep things normal, but deep down, we knew nothing had truly been resolved. The conflict wasn't just about the key anymore. It had uncovered deeper issues. How we view each other's roles, how we define contribution, and how we make decisions together. She started bringing up past moments, times when I had dismissed her input on small things, or made decisions without her. She said I always emphasized that I bought the house, as if that gave me the final say on everything. I felt like I was being attacked. I truly believed I had done my best, and giving my mom a key was a logical, harmless choice. But to her, it symbolized being shut out of the very home she lived in. One time, during a particularly heated exchange, she yelled, "You always say this is your house. Then what am I? A guest here?" That hit me hard. I had never thought she felt like an outsider. To me, having my name on the deed didn't mean she had no say or no value. But clearly, I hadn't shown her that in a way that mattered. I responded by defending myself. I had dreamed of this house before I met her. I wasn't trying to dismiss her efforts, but I couldn't ignore that I was the one who paid for it. I also told her she was overreacting. It was just a key, and the person holding it was someone she once trusted. But maybe it was exactly because I kept saying, "It's just a key," that she felt more hurt. For her, the key represented something deeper. Her place in this family, her right to be part of decisions, and her need to feel respected. The tension reached a peak when she said that if I didn't take back the key from my mom, she would go do it herself. That really made me angry. It felt like she was challenging my authority in the very home I worked so hard for. I started seeing her behavior as impulsive and irrational, all over a key. But the truth is, to her, it was never about the key. It was about her value, her place, and whether her voice mattered in our life together. Since that moment, things in the house have felt heavier than ever. Our conversations have become short and cold. She still does everything as usual, but I can feel the emotional distance growing. There's no more warmth or sharing like before. I've held on to my belief that I did nothing wrong. I paid for the house. I saved for years. I worked for this dream. I respect my wife's contributions. But I don't believe every decision needs to be 50-50, especially not something as small and practical as this, especially when it's for safety and peace of mind. I don't understand why she's this angry, especially when she and my mom never had issues. My mom never showed up unannounced or interfered in our lives. So what's the real reason? Maybe it's just as she said, she felt left out, like she wasn't part of the decision-making process. But I still feel that if she trusted me, she should have trusted my judgment too. I explained that having my mom hold a key was for emergencies, like if we're away and something happens, or there's an accident or fire, or a plumbing issue. But she said we could just leave a key with a trusted neighbor or call a professional. There's no need for someone who doesn't live here to have constant access. That sounded reasonable, but I still believe that family, especially my mom, is the safest and most reliable choice. That's why I feel she's blowing things out of proportion, turning a simple matter into a power struggle between wife and mother, between wife and husband. I feel like I'm being forced to pick a side, either give in and retrieve the key to please her, or stick to my decision and accept the fallout. Every time I imagine her going to confront my mother for the key, I feel uncomfortable. Not just because it might hurt my mom, but because I feel like my authority as a husband, as the head of the household, is being challenged. Honestly, I don't want things to go this far. But I also don't want to cave just to keep the peace, especially when I still believe I didn't do anything wrong or thoughtless. I know that if we let this drag on, our relationship will only deteriorate. But the more I think about it, the more stuck I feel. I don't want to apologize for something I believe wasn't wrong. I don't want to be the kind of husband who just gives in for the sake of quiet, while resentment builds inside. But I also don't want to keep hurting the woman I love, the one who's been by my side through everything, who supported me while I built my future. I ask myself, is this the time to take a step back? Not because I was wrong, but because this marriage is more important than being right? Is it worth risking peace and love over a spare key? And on the flip side, if I give in and take the key back just to appease her, will that damage the relationship I have with my mother? The more I think, the more I realize that marriage isn't just about assets, decisions, or who paid what. It's about sensitivity, about hearing the unspoken, and how we respond to each other's emotions. Maybe to me, the key is just a simple object, but to her, it symbolizes the right to be included, respected, and seen as an equal partner. I haven't made a final decision yet, but I do know this. If I keep clinging to my stance, our relationship may never be the same. Maybe the answer isn't choosing sides, but finding a way to make both my wife and my mother feel valued. Because in the end, family should never be a place where the people we love have to choose sides just to feel loved in return.